Today, we're going to be covering two different modules. The first module is Technology and Instructional Design, User-Centered Learning. Now, technology is a key component in instructional design because it prepares students not only for their current studies, but also their life. Technology is also an effective way for students to learn material, which means that technology is imperative in the instructional design process and being utilized in the classroom. So we're going to be covering three different points to this. The first one is technology in curriculum and instruction, current technology trends in education, and lastly, further technology resources and tools. Now, technology in curriculum or in instruction, we're going to be looking at no matter what you are creating, whether it's e-learning or curriculum development for the classroom, it's important to make sure that the content helps the student to perform better. And that's our goal as teachers, no matter what, is to make certain that it helps our students to perform better, to know more, to understand more. So technology integration into curriculum instruction, we're going to be talking about three different points. The first one is engagement. Now, the purpose of technology integration into our curriculum, into our instruction, is all about student engagement. The students just can't be engaged because it's interesting technology that they're learning about or utilizing. But it has to be the content being produced, and that's why there's engagement. While technology is absolutely fun, it needs to produce the rules expected of it, which is for students to learn the content. Enhancement. Technology should be utilized to aid, assist, or scaffold in ways that traditional methods aren't as easily done. This means that when addressing learner needs, it should be personalized to that specific child. Technology comes in to help mold the curriculum. Now, enhancement means that just because you can use technology doesn't mean you should always use the technology. If there is something else that's traditional, use that method. Use technology in a way that hasn't been done before. Extension. So students need to the extension to the real world and to the applications of the real world. And technology is a great way to do this. This means that the learning needs to relate to the student's world outside of the classroom walls. So that would be engaging with the community, engaging with other countries, engaging with job opportunities or career options, looking at not only tools in the classroom for engineering perhaps, but also seeing how engineering is used in the real world and applying it to that way. And you'll be seeing engineering in just a minute. So when you are looking at your technology in your classroom, you should be rating your usage by asking yourself these questions. Now, this would be out of a 3-point rating system. 1 point would be, ooh, it doesn't hit the target. 3 would be, yes, this is absolutely hitting the target. Now, the more points you have, that means that the technology is being utilized to the best of its ability. The lower your score means, should you really be using this technology? The chances are the answer is no. You should find the traditional method or a different method to meet the needs of your students. So the first question is, does technology allow students to focus on the assignment? This is super important because if technology is distracting them from the assignment, then we have an issue. Does technology help to motivate the students in learning content? If the students aren't motivated, there's no point using it. Does the technology cause a behavioral shift from passive to active learners? Does the technology help students understand the content in a deeper way? Number 5, does the technology help to scaffold the learning to make it easier to comprehend? This one in particular is super important to make certain that the students' needs are absolutely being met and that there is a bridge to help them to understand what is being talked about content-wise. Number 6, does the technology help students to demonstrate knowledge of what they have learned in a way that the traditional methods could not? We talked about this one earlier. Could they use technology outside of their typical school day? Does the technology bridge home and school life? And lastly, will it help students to build grit and character. This is going back to the real world aspect. We want students to build grit, determination to get through hard things. And then, of course, character, building on having that really good character that we want them to possess as they exit our school system. So number 2, current trends in education. So we're going to be reimagining technology in the classrooms. And first off, this is one that is still continuing to be a big trend, which is game-based learning. And I have 2 different game-based learning here, so we can talk about the different types of game-based learning. The first one's Reflex, the other one is Prodigy. More often than not, Prodigy, you know all about. Reflex, some schools know it, some schools don't know it as well. So we'll talk about both of those. So game-based learning can be drill and practice, or more along the lines of video games with educational purposes behind them. A drill and practice game would be a game like Reflex, which is the one in the left-hand corner. And that's going to be looking at your facts, practicing 3 times 4. What is it? 12, and getting that to be really well down so that when they do the more complex problems, which is what Prodigy has, they're not having to waste their time trying to figure out what their fact is and then using those skills to figure that out, and then having to use the same skills to figure out, oh, now how am I applying that to this complex problem? That's why there are drills and practice games like that. So that's Reflex, and that's definitely drilling students. And then it rewards them as they race towards the mastery of fluency with math facts, or fluency with reading. Prodigy, on the other hand, is more of a video game like product. So they're in the midst of this epic battle and they have to answer these amazing mathematical questions. Prodigy also has it with language arts, where they have to do grammar and linguistic skills and other things like that. All right, so game-based learning. Here are some different game-based learning. Some are digital educational escape rooms. These are amazing. I have done it in my classroom with the American Revolution, where the kids had to figure out, can you survive this digital educational escape room with the knowledge that you have about the American Revolution? And they have to pick which side that they are on. Are you a patriot or are you a British soldier? And they have to fight their way through to figure out, did you survive it? Now, along that same line, there is Can You Survive, which are simulation based on history, or sometimes there's Can You Survive based on science. One of the good ones for science is, can you survive in outer space? Here's what you have. Now rate these systems to see, can you survive out here? Did you rate the systems in such a way that the astronauts go, congratulations, you survived with just these things? The next one would be Kahoot and quizzes. This is making it more, making review a little bit more interesting. Sometimes it's a preview into your learning content. Book widgets digitalize learning content and it gamifies it. So this would be as you are presenting on, we'll say, number and operations and mathematics, you're going to be using book widgets to make it more interesting and engaging as the students are learning about number and operations. Classcraft gamifies rules and engages students to follow your classroom management tools, techniques, and strategies. So it would be like, everyone turned in their homework. Congratulations. Your avatars now have 10 extra points that they can do whatever they need to do with them. Or, oh, team A has all of their people here today. That's awesome. They get 10 extra points, and then the other team doesn't get any and they go, "Rah." Anyway, it's this whole thing that's amazing that teachers have come back and said, we love this. And then there's Plickers, which shares constant content anonymously with the whole class. So this would be, hey, tell me, it could be a review. So tell me what 3 times 4 is and go. And then the students use their little tablets. They answer the question and it pops up on the screen. And it's a quick way for you to go, ooh, formative assessment. Did they get that? Did they not? It could also be, Hey, what are your thoughts? Share it with me. Or, hey, here's the vocab word. Draw me a picture of what that word means for some ideas for Plickers. Pear Deck is also going to be throughout the presentation in class where they get to interact with your um, either digital learning, you're online, or it's in class when they're interacting with you as you go through your presentation or what have you. So customized learning centers. So when teachers provide student centers that are customized by technology resources, students get a choice to pick what interests them. All learning centers are focused on one element of learning, for example, engineering, but the technology resources differ. Now, Tomlinson 2017 also talks about amazing learning centers, but this one just so happens to be completely and totally technology driven. Some of hers are technology driven and some of hers are books and learning that way or hands-on projects. So there's a couple of different ways to do learning centers. This one is completely technology driven. And so this is a child getting to do some engineering on his computer, and he's having to figure out how to create what's he's creating. This one is using technology to do a presentation on their engineering that they built, which was a Ferris wheel, and comparing that to the real life version of it, which is in England. And then this one's using the engineering techniques and comparing and contrasting it. And this is a collaborative learning experience. So is the one below, the child who's on the computer all by himself. That's just a one-to-one compatibility. So the students have a choice. If you're working with partners, great. If you're working by yourself, awesome. Here's some different ways to do this with your customized learning centers to best meet the needs of your students. The last one is artificial intelligence, and this is a really big one. However, I found out that while AI is still relatively new to the classroom, it's actually been used to create in the entertainment world since the movie Brave, which came out in 2012. Pixar used AI to create realistic hair, especially looking at Merida. Furthermore, it is used in the gaming industry to create infinitesimal levels of games to best prepare students for their future careers. Bracing AI in the classroom will help students navigate new fields in the future. And some of these are definitely in the entertainment world, like with Pixar and Disney and what have you. So options for AI, bringing them into the classroom. One is Semiconductor. This is exploring how to create symphonies using AI. Poem portraits explore the limitations of AI and compare and contrast it. You can compare and contrast it with student creation with AI. Hey, create this poem on this. Now put in these keywords into this AI machine. Compare and contrast. Is your poem better than AI's? Why is that? Oh, because you actually understand the context behind it. AI doesn't have that same context. Labs by Google. It explores technology and tests its creative limits. This is with sound, drawing, music, and things on the creative realm. And then Pixar in a Box. This one, AI is highlighted in it, but it is not used. So Pixar and Khan Academy paired up so that students know how filmmakers use AI in animation, and they get to actually create their own films, which is really cool. So number 3, technology resources and tools. On the left-hand side, these are our resources. Some of them are websites like ISTE, which goes into lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of different user manuals. You're looking at coming to conferences. You're looking at blogs that they post up there. ISTE is an amazing resource to know more about technology and ideas to put technology into your classroom, into your curriculum, and to gain on trend what's happening currently in the technology field and applying that to where you are. Edutopia is another resource, kind of like ISTE, but it's more news articles. Digitalpromise.org kind of bridges the two, ISTE and Edutopia. Kobe the blog. This one's a teacher-based blog. Book widgets is the same thing. And then you have educational journals below to gain more information using technology resources in the classroom and getting the focus of peer review articles. Now, the tools on the right-hand side of the screen, these are ones that you can take immediately right into your classroom and use them. I'm gonna leave this resource up for just a little bit longer so you can take pictures of it. All right. So these are the references that I used inside the presentation. Now we're going into Module 2, Instructional Design Assessments. So assessments in instructional design is imperative because it validates whether the design meets the criteria or not. Now, using the same exact quote from our other module, I'm tweaking it a little at the end. Here we go. No matter what you are creating, whether it is e-learning or curriculum development for the classroom, it is important to make sure the content helps the student perform better, and you do that through assessment. So let's talk about assessment. There are two different types of assessments, and then we're going to be looking at two different models, which are the Kirkpatrick model and the CIAO or Chow model. So the two different types of assessment. Now, we as teachers know about formative assessments in our classroom. We know about summative assessments in the classroom, but we're going to find out what formative and summative assessments are for this topic today. So formative assessments measure data throughout the design process. Now, that means that when you have the topic of perhaps it's we need to meet the need right here, right now for students in college that are underperforming in English class. Here's the problem. We need to have this curriculum set and go. It could be that. And the minute that you hit go, you're going, okay, now what are the great ideas? Okay, now let's test which one of these ideas is going to be the best of the best of this source. And you're going to continually formatively assess the process as you're going through designing whatever it is that needs to be designed, whether it's curriculum or technology or pinpointing an area that needs to be boosted with something, with a design material. This is where formative assessment comes in. Now, on the other spectrum, which is summative assessments, this is what happens at the very end of the design, and you're needing to go, okay, does this end result of the product meet exactly what our goals and objectives were at the beginning? And that's where summative assessment comes in. So both formative and summative means that you're going back to that original goal, that original objective that you had, and the standards that you were going based off of to meet the needs of the students or the user. And regardless of whether it's formative or summative, the assessments must have validity and reliability, just like in the classroom. Has to be. So the Kirkpatrick model. Now this one is a four-pronged method. The first one is satisfaction. We're looking at the learner. And then you have learning. So how is the student learning? And then you're looking at transfer. Is their behavior, is their knowledge being transferred and going the distance? And then ROI is return on investment. Is the product worth its salt? So satisfaction, we look at that through surveys that the participants are doing at the end of the learning. They're giving their satisfaction rating on the product. They're saying, yes, I loved this, or no, it was terrible. And they're giving you a rating with the survey. So learning assessments capture the student's learning and whether the learner is learning what they need to know. This is usually through, not through the set, it could be through a survey, but usually it's through an assessment that's typical, normal. Transfer, it is, or and it can be either or both the transfer of knowledge or the transfer of behavior. The student needs to show that they have developed and retained what they have learned from either the technology or the training or the material or the curriculum. So the return on investment is the total worth of the product. This takes time to prove because it is determining whether the product is still showing the growth that was initially gained through the product. All right, so the Chow model is a three-pronged method, and this one's more based in technology. So we're looking at the context, the interaction, and the outcomes. Now, the context is looking at how technology is positioned within the framework or within the curriculum being utilized. Is it being applied appropriately? The interaction is coming from how the user is interacting with the technology. Is the user using it correctly? Is the user engaged with it? Is this a click, 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 and we're done? And all they did was click, or are they actually engaging with it and learning the content and not just clicking to show that they've done something? So outcomes, how the student changes over time in regards to the learning process of the unit or the module. This is the same as the one above. This is kind of looking at that ROI, looking at, did their learning extend to past the point of the module's done, we're moving on. It's actually going past that. Let's look at it 5 months from now. Do they still have that retention of knowledge? And if they have that retention of knowledge, that means that the ROI is looking really good. We want them to have the knowledge past this point of done, we're moving on. Now you can forget everything you've learned because we're now on to the next module. We don't want that. We want students or users to go past with that. Okay, now the Chow model can either be qualitative or it can be quantitative. So qualitative would be looking at surveys, looking at observations, looking at the human, quote unquote, human side of things. It could be quantitative and you're looking at the data points. Lots and lots and lots of data. Now we're looking at references. So these are where I got all of the information on today's lovely slides. And thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.